Good morning. I welcome all for this one-day virtual conference on careers in cyber security analysis and auditing. And the conference will be held maybe now from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We have, the program is going to be sponsored by a company called Fixnix. I think, they will soon, introduce themselves. And we have a list of 8 speakers lined up for the day, and each one of them, they have got at least 20 plus years of experience in the area of cyber security. So the whole initiative started when we were offering the course on information security analysis and auditing for our pre-final year students of computer science, IT, and information technology. So there are more than 2,000 students at present in Vellore campus alone or studying this course. So we thought, why not we will call the industry experts who are working in this field to share their views and also, ignite our students and provide some insights. So with this in mind, we have requested Fixnix. Mr. Shanmugavel immediately has accepted our invitation. We are thankful to you, sir. And we are going to cover 8 different topics which are part of our curriculum. We have the speakers with us, maybe 9 speakers, maybe 8 sessions and 9 speakers. Each speaker will take about 45 minutes. And I may not go into the details of the profile of the speaker now. On in the individual session, they may introduce or we will introduce. So we have with us Hemant Duzane. He is an information security analysis and auditing. He is going to talk. We have Mr. Hazib Awan, who is going to talk from California, and he is going to talk on mobile security, in particular on DLP and DRM. And we have Shivant Somanathan. He is going to talk on InfoSec governance. And we have Mr. Padmanabhan. He is going to talk on InfoSec compliance. And we have Shashidhar CN, who is going to talk on InfoSec risk. And we have Murtaza Merchant, who is going to talk on security incident analysis. And we have Madam Ruchava Vartak. She is going to talk on security audit. And then we have Prashant Khoranna. He is going to talk on VPPT testing. There may be some slight changes in the the speakers and the order in which they talk, depending on the convenience of their location. So there may be some minor changes, but all these topics will be covered. And some of these topics, they will also show you the demo. I request all the audience to post their questions, if at all any, in the chat window. And depending on the time, we may be able to take all or a few of them. So this is the agenda of the day. And now I may just, glance maybe the next 5 minutes. What are all the opportunities and challenges if you work in the area of, cyber security? That will give you a broad, understanding of why we need to study this particular field. Okay. So as you all know that we are living in a digital era. Now, the world is becoming digital, and maybe, I can even share the presentation what I have. Okay, I think some difficulty in sharing. That's fine.
Dr. Naresh,
yeah.
Got now.
Sir, Naresh sir, kindly make Ganeshan sir as the host.
Repu nenu unmute lo unnana mute.
Yeah. So am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dr. Ganesh, you are audible.
Okay, fine.
Sir, Ganeshan sir, sharing is enabled. You can share your screen.
Okay, fine.
Share your screen.
If the screen is visible?
No.
No. Okay, I have just some text message. I will just explain what it is. So we are living in a digital era. The world is all becoming digital, and we that we are all even buying things through online website portal, wherein everything about the product or even the purchase that we make are in the form of digital. So people make payment in the form of digital transactions. We are also conducting now the classes for our students in online. Even for your information, the examinations, but also the interviews by the job providers are also nowadays done through online. And all the content are now digitized in the form of PPTs, PDF, etc., which we are sharing it to the students. And you take even the doctors, they are doing consultation through telemedicine, and and you understand that we are also spending good amount of time in social media, such as WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, etc. But all these are digital platforms which are disseminating the information. So our entertainment industry is also moving towards digital form. We are talking of web TVs and web serials and so on, and they are all becoming very popular. Not only that, we started even playing games not in the physical ground, but rather in the online world, where the data is only in the digital form. So in the near future, we are going to see that the cars are going to be driven automatically, or what we call autonomous vehicles, wherein people say that 60% of the algorithm are going to take over the driving of a car. That means software is going to be 60%. Soon we are going to see the launch of 5G communication in India, wherein you are going to see that 20 GB of data will be transferred between the stakeholders, maybe between the service provider and the end user per second. The current buzzwords such as machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, etc., are going to learn things by themselves by if you provide huge amount of digital data with a lot of variety in it. That is the basic of all these AI, ML, and deep learning. So you have to provide tons of data which are in digital form so that they can learn. So people are trying to find the hidden patterns which are present in these historical data using big data platform. So in the case of even you take IoT, the digital data is captured by the input sensor, which are aggregated by the local server, and then at regular intervals it pushes into a cloud, and then the data analytics software at the cloud is going to do the prognostic or diagnostic and send the necessary alarms or notification to the end user. So that means in the whole of IoT, you see that everything is digital data acquisition, and then analytics, and then alerting. Everything is in the digital form, right? So the various sensors which are present in our mobile phones also are now we see that there are multiple cameras and then audio systems and whatnot. All these sensors acquire data and then they send them into the cloud. So hence our digital data need to be secured during this acquisition. So the most challenging part is how I am going to secure these data which is in the digital form. So as I mentioned, it should be secured at a time of acquisition, at a time of storage. It may be in a file or a database or a cloud, or even during the transmission, wherein you may be using wired or wireless channels. So again, the digital data can be in the form of text, an audio, or an image, or video. The worst case is in the case of a video, what happens is not only the amount of data that we talk is huge, but also when you are talking of the live transmission of these data, the processing is going to be a hectic task. So when you are processing it, if you want to process it in a secured way, and then if you want to send it to the end user, what happens is the difficulties are manifold. So the security is going to add an extra computation. So you need to see that how do you handle it. So in a typical cyber security system, we are going to do the logging of the data packets which will be sent from one device into another, and during the transmission we may be digitizing the packets using a number of protocol like TCP, UDP, etc., and so on. And then we need to look at these packets and see what went wrong, and then you need to find a fix. That's what the cyber security fellows are doing. But then again, people are talking of an automation. Now there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for people to work in the area of big data, AI, and ML, because once if you use these techniques, it is possible for us to do the automation of it. So even before an attack happens, the system can figure out. So anybody who wants to work on the emerging areas, it's going to be a gold mine. So with this, I would like to hand over the session. Already we are running overrunning by 2 minutes. I wish all the participants to make use of this opportunity, but also I would like to thank all the speakers from Fixnix who are going to make this whole day presentation to be very fruitful. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Ganeshan and Nadeshan, and want to thank the management of EIT. Without much ado, I would love to invite Mr. Hemant. Dr. Ganeshan, you want to introduce Mr. Hemant, or do you want me to introduce?
Sorry, I'm not able to audible. I'm not able to hear, Shan.
Mr. Hemant?
Yeah, you can.
Yes.
You can proceed, Hemant.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, VIT, Ganeshan sir, Nadesh sir, and everyone for giving this opportunity. Let me start the presentation. So, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, Hemant.
Okay, great. Thanks. Good morning to all. Thanks for joining this session. Probably Mr. Ganeshan, Professor Ganeshan has given us the bit background about what needs to be understood in terms of information security. Today we are going to talk about fundamentals of information security, but probably my session is not around the theoretical knowledge, but most around what are the practicality of the information security aspect, what are the basics of it. I'll be showing some of the interactive videos where you can understand what's going on around you and learn from those videos. Before I start, I have a quick disclaimer, and this is for all the presentations you're going to see throughout the day. All the images, videos, contents we are using here just for the information purpose or the education purpose. We are not trying to violate any copyrights. If you have any problems, please connect with us. Most important for all the students and participants, do not try anything, whatever you're going to learn from these videos at home without any supervision or without any guidance. We will not be responsible if anything goes wrong and you are in trouble because of any cybersecurity challenges. And any questions, queries you have, you can connect with us on this email address. Okay, let's start. So we know everything about internet and smart gadgets today, right? It's a very great platform and technology of this century. We may have more advancement in near future. Today, it has become very integral part of our life. If I talk about any device today, from morning till the evening, or maybe even during sleep as well, all the gadgets are connected to me through internet, correct? Whether it's my cell phone, mobile, laptop, smartwatch, smart device, any kind of smart thing we call it, whether it's a smart TV, it's connected to internet and helping me. Even my coffee maker, my fridge, all are being connected and being part of my life. What do we do with these tools? We utilize these tools for our educational communication purpose to make our life easy. We encourage a lot of creativity and imagination, and it helps us to increase the knowledge and source what we have, what we want to learn more. And definitely it also attracts a lot of dangers. So in very simple term, if I correlate to an information security parameter, which is called as an information asset, something which has a value to an individual, a company or organization. My mobile phone, it's very important for me. So it has a value for me, not just because it is, let's say 20,000, 30,000 rupees mobile phone, but it has a data which is important to me. Hence it has value for me. So let's understand what can happen in a minute on internet. Today, you can see how many things are connected with us, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, TikTok, which got banned recently, Instagram, so many things. You see for a minute how many people are connected and checking their information or putting messages, posting information. Look at the Google, 4.1 million search queries happens in a minute. Look at Facebook, 1.3 million users logged in. Look at your Twitter, almost 1 million users are tweeting messages. So many things are happening around us. So let's understand what is an internet, how it works, application of internet. So internet basically help us to create a cyberspace around us. So what is it? Cyberspace, anything that has to do with internet. We use this internet for our personal use, like to communicate, to stay connected with family, friends. We also conduct business, manage transportation like Ola, Uber, electricity, banking, we pay bills, we do transactions, and other important everyday activities online. We also play games, download music, or watch TV shows and movies, definitely after we complete our homeworks, right? So I want to explain this term in more detail via video. This is one video I liked it and I downloaded it from YouTube. So I'm going to play it. If you don't able to hear the video and voice, just let me know.
Would you be comfortable living in a house that someone else had the key to? What if an underground tunnel led into it from a public park, where its windows could never quite close all the way? Would you trust it with your safety and your privacy? The internet is that house. This is not to say never go into the house, but rather you should know the hazards before you store all of your valuables there, and do what you can to protect them. So why is it insecure, and why can't we just fortify it until it's safe? Well, first of all, the internet was not originally built to be what it is today. It's like someone decided to expand a shoebox into a skyscraper. The internet originally developed when computers were huge and so expensive to own that only universities, big businesses, and a few governments had them. The point, originally, was to let these massive supercomputers talk to each other. And as soon as two computers could send information back and forth, we had a network. The network gradually grew until personal computers emerged in the 1980s, and then it exploded. Soon, people were not just talking to each other, but also exchanging money, playing games, reading news, shopping, and doing everything we associate with the internet today. Other devices started talking to the network too. Phones and cars and refrigerators and elevators and power plants and much, much more. But the ease of all those devices talking to each other came at a price: security. One computer could send another instructions to delete everything on it or take it over. We call these viruses and malware. Or one person could steal another's identity by guessing, cracking, or extracting a password. Vulnerabilities such as these will never completely go away because they're built into the internet's very architecture. Criminals use them to steal billions of dollars, governments use them for surveillance, and hacktivists use them to further their political goals. Between 2004 and 2013, over 1 billion records of personal information were stolen or leaked through data breaches of major organizations. As a thought experiment, let's imagine what a perfectly secure internet might look like. Users would not be allowed to download or install anything onto their computers. All internet traffic would be monitored and regulated by bots and humans, massively limiting the number of websites you could visit. In order to log on to a website, you'd have to type in a 100-character password, submit a genetic sample, and whistle a tune. The servers that hold data would be kept in heavily armed fortresses on the moon. And even with all these safeguards in place, some clever hacker would almost certainly still find a way in. The good news is, even with our flawed internet, there are simple things you can do to protect yourself, and there are a lot of people committed to making the internet more secure. The house that is the internet may be built on a shaky foundation, but it's been a home to innovation and an unprecedented free exchange of ideas. It's up to us to make it livable in spite of its flaws.
Hope you like the video. So let's understand what are the information sources. So we have seen on the inside the video that there are so many ways we can communicate with each other, whether it's just a talking, video chats, over the phone, or the Facebook, Twitter, emails, text messages. So there are so many ways of communications we have in today's life. What it brings to us, there are various types of services if you connect through internet, whether it's social networking, content sharing, location-based services. Social networking, we know Facebook is very famous. Google Plus is there. LinkedIn is there, which is professional social networking. Twitter, WhatsApp, which is also one of the kind of social networking where we keep messaging to people. Content sharing, yes. Even Facebook, Dropbox, Google Drive, these are content sharing information. One of the messages you have seen on this video is about the hacktivists or the people who want to drive the information through a lot of n number of people. Those are through news channels like Logical Indian or Scopo, location-based services, whether it's a Google Map or a Facebook check-in. So with the internet and the devices connected to us, we can utilize these services very easily. But why these services are free and how they are free? Because when you opt for any of these services, you give your information, user data to these service providers, and they utilize it for various purposes. They utilize it for user mapping, user demographics, then user analytics, utilized for giving you or sending you a lot of kind of ads, videos, chat messages related to different businesses. All these things helps a lot of organizations who are promoting these social websites or the content sharing or location based services to generate their revenue. But free doesn't always means free. There are a lot of challenges when you visit these websites. If not properly administered and not properly verified, then definitely there are a lot of malwares or potentially unwanted programs get downloaded when you play any untrusted video games online. It definitely has a malware in the background which is downloaded by those websites on your machine. It installs keylogger, it installs the adware. Most important today, if you have seen the malvertising, when you click on something, a lot of pop-ups come up. So that's a malvertising. It's malware advertising. And ransomware, it's very well known today. I mean, so many things happen around us. WannaCry, PETA, everyone is aware that now even every individual and every other kind of industry is targeted, just not the technology or the IT industry, but even the shipping logistic is also targeted. Pharmaceutical is targeted. So let's understand what are the threat environments around us. If I talk about a relation of threat environment to the video, if I've seen that, even if I'm connected to internet, I need a device to connect it. So definitely the most important parameter for me is to have a device which hosts my entire information asset or a data and keep that secure. So if it is stolen or lost, then I am losing that most of the data. And today also the count of losing the data through a laptop's lost or stolen devices is almost 35%. Through social media, cloud computing, again, there's another way where data can be theft or stolen. There are hackers who are sitting inside the system or waiting to break to the systems so that they can take out the data. There are a lot of internal security failures in the organization, whether it's an institute or a college or a big corporation, which talks about that leads to a very bigger impact. I mean, recently the Twitter hack happened. I mean, my colleague is going to talk in detail in next presentation about it, how it happened and how it can be prevented. But it was more of an internal security failure. That was a primary observation or the analysis has been done, not yet confirmed, but this has been happening. Definitely the virus, Trojan, malwares, security loopholes on the computer are various parameters which are contributing to the threat environment. Employee stealing information. Person who is not happy in the organization definitely is ready to take out any data and sell it to their competitor or maybe just delete that data. Again, it's create a threat environment. And yes, important, the info tossed into the dumpster. A lot of people may not be aware, but there is a dumpster diving. When I say dumpster diving means there are people who are paid to actually clean your garbage from your house. And when I say these are the people, these are not your helpers or the housekeeping people. I'm talking about the dumpster diving people who wants to take out the information from the dustbin, like your credit card statement, confidential mail which you receive and you just thrown it out without even properly shredding it. So normally these people who collect the garbage outside the corporates or a lot of colleges and institute, they keep tap on these information and collects it. So again, that becomes a very important parameter and that creates a threat environment around us. Why the cyber crime is going up? What is the upward trend? Huge increase in the use of internet and smartphone. I mean, today we are working from home. We are conducting lectures from home. We are learning from home. So definitely the use of all these devices has increased. Hence, the landscape for the attackers has been increased. Individuals share personal information and work-related information over internet today. Everything happens over internet. I mean, I have a BYOD, bring your own device policy for my company. So they have their own device. Internet is connected. So same device is used for personal activity as well as corporate activity. Critical and sensitive information are shared over internet. So many things are happening around internet us that we are not aware, like financial transactions, booking a Ola Uber cab, or maybe booking a hotel. A lot of things are happening. Security controls are never 100%. We know that it's not possible to have security at right place at right time every 100%. Bad guys always try to be ahead of good guys. You can see in the picture that so many things are happening, like phishing, today phishing contributes almost 90% of hack happening around the world, whether it's a small organization or bigger organization. It contributes to that. SIM swapping. SIM swapping is basically your SIM card is swapped, your OTP goes to that other person. They know your information by doing a social engineering, your name, mobile number, everything. We'll see that in detail in next couple of slides. And then they do the transaction on behalf of you. 29% of kids who never get parental control or advice, and they are being online, whether it's 6-7 years old kid or even college going student, they are basically the attack vectors or the attack platform for the attackers to conduct these kind of attacks. So what are the risks we have because of all these threat environments? Privacy breach, definitely my data is being breached. Reputational impact or a cyberbullying. A lot of people try to bully me on the internet, or I may be trying to bully someone else without unknowingly or unknowingly. How that can be avoided? Data theft. Definitely my data is getting stolen or shared with someone else. Access control issues. Sometimes very important application I need to access, because my credentials are compromised, I'm not able to access that application. Employment challenges. If you get caught in any of the misactivity in cybersecurity, a lot of people, a lot of companies get banned. Those individuals who have been caught in the cybersecurity, the data has been shared with all the IT companies. Any cybersecurity case is registered against the individual if he's looking for the employment. So employment check, when it happens, these kind of database have been verified by the employers for the specialized job. And definitely legal proceedings. In India, we have IT Act. Now even the privacy data bill is coming up. So all these things are trying to put some controls against cyber thefts or cyber crime, and definitely conduct a legal proceeding against those cyber criminals. So let's see a video that what can happen on the social media, what we do, and what are the implications of it.
Careful about what you post online. Well, here's a story that'll explain why. Once upon a time, a nice fellow named Tim uploaded a picture of himself to his favorite social network. It wasn't a bad picture, maybe a little goofy, but innocent enough. Little did Tim know that this photo would be his downfall. When Tim uploaded his photo to the internet, it was stored in a few places. One of these was the server of Tim's favorite social network, which allowed all his friends to see it. Another was a government server that picked up lots of information from the internet in case it could be useful down the line. And the third was the server of an identity theft crime ring. Back on the social network, a few of Tim's friends gave their approval to his picture, but most ignored it. Meanwhile, the social network made his data available to an advertising firm. They noticed the frisbee in Tim's photo and started sending him frisbee ads, hoping that he'd buy more frisbees. Unfortunately, he would not be able to because of what happened next. You see, the identity theft crime ring liked Tim's photo much more than his friends did. That's because it showed his house in the background. One of the pieces of data in the image file was the exact location where the photo was taken, allowing them to figure out Tim's address. Now, this crime ring had already collected some other information about Tim that he had unwittingly posted online, including his phone number and social security number. So they called Tim's bank, pretended to be him, and tricked the bank into resetting his password using all of the information they had. Needless to say, they transferred all of Tim's money into their own pockets. They also gained access to his email accounts and sent his friends malware that stole their bank account information. This was bad for Tim's social life. To console himself over the loss of his friends, Tim took a vacation halfway across the world, and by strange coincidence chose the very same country that had intercepted his photo. Unfortunately for poor Tim, the nifty design on his shorts was also the flag of a rebel army trying to overthrow that country's government, and he was identified as a possible threat. So he was pulled aside at security and denied entry. Tim's story is pretty much a worst-case scenario, and is almost certainly not what's going to happen the next time you post a picture online. But each of these things does happen to people on a daily basis, except for maybe the rebel army bit. Information that you post publicly can be stored by anyone who finds it, and your private communications might be intercepted and read by advertisers, news outlets, governments, and criminals alike. In fact, over 10 million Americans have their identities stolen each year. So try to be careful about what information you post online. Keep all of your software up to date and make secure passwords that are different for each site you visit. These problems will probably never go away unless we invent a completely secure way of communicating and sharing with each other online. Sorry, Tim.
Okay, let's understand what is information security then to protect ourselves and to protect our organization. What is an information security? Sometimes it is called as InfoSec. It's an abbreviation. It's basically a set of practices that help us to keep our data secure from unauthorized access or alteration, or in case when it's being stored or when it's being transmitted from one machine to another, whether it's logical or physical transfer of that data. Sometimes it is also. Yes.
Hemant, can you be a little louder? Somebody is saying that your voice is not audible to them.
Okay, sure. Am I audible now?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Okay. So InfoSec is also sometimes referred as the data security. So let's see or understand what is the difference between information security and cyber security. As information security or information technology has become the accepted corporate buzz phrase that means computer and related stuff, and sometimes information security and cyber security use interchangeably. Cyber security is a broader practice of defending IT assets from the various kind of attacks. Information security is a specific discipline under the cybersecurity umbrella. Network security and application security are sister practices of InfoSec, focusing on network and application code respectively. So whenever you hear about any terms like information security, cyber security, network security, so all are correlated, not exactly the same, but yes, they help each other in terms of how their data can be protected. So the end objective of doing or conducting any of these security activities is to protect the information asset around us. So let's understand what are the key principles of information security. There are three pillars of information security, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality, perhaps the element of the triad that most immediately comes to the mind when you think about security, right? Today, if I want to say that I want to protect my data which is stored on mobile, I say I keep it confidential. I don't allow people to access my data. It's the same thing. Data is confidential when only those people who have authorized to access to do so. To ensure confidentiality, you need to be able to identify who is trying to access data, block attempts by those without authorization. Passwords, encryption, authentication, and defense against penetration attacks are techniques designed to ensure confidentiality. Second pillar, integrity means maintaining data in its correct states from being improperly modified either by accident or maliciously. Many of these techniques which you use for confidentiality will also protect the data integrity aspect of it. After all, if an attacker or hacker can't get access to the environment, they can't change the data, correct? So integrity is protected, but you can also put a lot of tools such as checksums of the data integrity, file integrity monitoring, for instance, and version controls of software and frequent backups can also help you to restore the data to its correct state. Integrity also covers the concept of non-repudiation. You must be able to prove that you have maintained the integrity of your data, especially when you're fighting any legal case. Availability is a mirror image of confidentiality. While you need to make sure that the data can't be accessed by unauthorized user, you also need to allow users who are authorized to access that data successfully. Correct. So data availability means matching network, computer resources, high availability to the volume of data access you expect, implementing a good backup practices for disaster recovery purpose. So in an ideal world, if I want to talk about these three pillars, your data should always be confidential in its correct state and should be available. But in practical scenario or in practice, of course, you often need to make a choice about which principle to be emphasized or to be followed stringently or strictly that requires assessing your data. So sometime what happen, if you are storing sensitive medical information, for instance, you will focus on the confidentiality of that data. Whereas if you are doing a financial transaction, the banks will more focus on the integrity of that data to ensure that nobody's bank account is credited or debited incorrectly. Right. So that's overall about the principles of information security. Let's understand the difference between an information security policy, a standard, procedure, and a guideline. I mean, the basic definition of a policy is it is always the apex among the other document. It helps us why do I need to do this. A policy is a high level statement that reflects the intent and the direction from the top management. Once it is published, it becomes mandatory for everyone within the organization to follow, to abide by the policy. For example, in your college, it may have published the internet usage policy for all the students. Then all the students must adhere to these policies. So what is the next? Standard. Standard is nothing but an acceptable level of quality. A standard can be used as a reference document for implementing a policy. So it basically assigns the quantifiable measures to those policy parameters. So it helps us to understand what is required to be done. For example, ISO standard like 27001 is for the information security, or 9001 is for the quality management. So all these are standard which help us what is required to be done to implement the policy. Procedure. A procedure is a series of detailed steps to be followed for accomplishing a particular task. It's a step-by-step approach, what is to be followed, and it helps us to understand how it can be done when I follow any policy or a standard practices. Sometime in the organization, it is also called as a standard operating procedure. For example, user access control procedure. When someone's user ID is created, how it is being created, how it has been assigned, all those things has been discussed in that policy in the procedure and in a step-by-step manner. So the last is the guideline. Guideline contains additional recommendation or suggestion that are not mandatory to follow, but these are like a best practices. So it provides additional information or recommended guidance on top of the procedure that these can be followed to ensure there are no loopholes or a weakness around any systems or the processes. So let's understand what is a risk management then. So it's a process basically which helps us to identify the risk, assess the risk, and mitigate the risk. It encompasses the identification, analysis, and response to the risk factor that form of the life of any kind of a business. Effective risk management means attempting to control as much as possible future outcomes by acting proactively rather than reactively. So if I talk about the risk management process, if you look at the diagram, I can define very simply. First step I follow is I identify the risk. Then I assess the risk based on the identification. I review the existing control in the organization, what I have it. If I find zero controls, then I implement the control to mitigate the risk. Therefore, the effective risk management offers the potential to reduce both possibility of a risk occurring and its potential impact. So a response to risk can be an avoidance, mitigation, or acceptance. Avoidance can be in terms of I don't go by that route or by that methodology so that I don't have that kind of a risk, or I may transfer that risk to a third party like taking an insurance. Mitigation, you actually fix that risk so that that risk never occurs, or even if it occurs, it will have a minimum impact. And acceptance is you don't have any choice, but you have to do that process and you have to accept that risk. So there are various ways to respond to the risk. So if I look at the parameters around what are the security measures I can utilize to respond to the risk, so I can divide in 4 steps. One is the technical, second is the organizational, third is the human, and fourth is a physical measure. In the technical measure, what normally happens is you implement a combination of a hardware software to protect your information assets. It can be like implementing a simple encryption algorithm to implementing a perimeter firewall. Organizational measures, they talk more on the processes. They include the creation of internal unit dedicated for the information security. They implement various processes. They implement policies, standards, guidelines to be followed. All along with making InfoSec part of duties of key stuff from every department. So they own that the information security to be followed by every individual within the organization. Human measures, definitely it includes providing awareness training for all users on proper infosec practices. And that this has to be done on the periodic basis. That only it helps to increase the knowledge and upgrade the knowledge on timely manner. And definitely physical measures. We keep a lot of information in the physical paper format. It has to be protected. So it includes controlling access to office location, especially the data centers. All it is important for us. So to summarize, what are the security measures for us as an individual to be followed? Avoid any kind of a phishing scam. Think before you click. Ensure whatever connection you're using, it's secure. It's whether it's a Wi-Fi or a home network. Be cautious when using unsecure network. Try to avoid or try to not to connect using unsecure network if you feel any suspicious thing. Definitely follow password best practices. Enable two-factor authentication. Today, every website helps you to enable two-factor authentication. So enable that. Do not leave your devices unattended. Protect your physical devices by a physical mechanism. If it is a logical protection, then definitely implement antivirus, anti-malware kind of softwares. Do not install any cracked version. There are a lot of free and open source versions available. When I say free, these are actually community editions which you can use it without any challenge. But a cracked version is basically you download something which is already cracked by an attacker or a hacker and you're using it. So they may have injected a code around it and you're using it. Adopt video conferencing security best practices and avoid certain misconfiguration which you normally do it during any video conference or lectures. Do not share personal information on social media. We have seen Tim's life, what happened with him by just putting a single photograph on the internet. Be vigilant, be skeptical, and be safe. So I want to summarize all these parameters in one quick video. So I'll go to it. Before we go for it, I just want to clarify one term, cyberbullying. It's basically the electronic posting of mean-spirited messages about a person, often done anonymously. It is to take out a person by basically manipulating his thought processes and making him feel that he's not right for the world or right for the cyberspace. To induce false oath or to induce habit of playing a lot more games online. We have seen a lot of things that happen around it, like Blue Whale game or something what happened very last couple of years back. So let's see what are the security measures we can follow on social media. Hope you like the video. Let's understand what are the various opportunity in this domain. As per the research what have been reviewed online by CSO India, there are top 4 IT security hiring priorities are defined and in demand since 2019 and still continuing in 2020-21. InfoSec is definitely a key aspect of it. In that, definitely the information security analysts, engineers, or manager roles are demanding with an average salary of 6.5 to 9.5 lakhs. Network security engineers or admins with an average salary of 6 lakhs to 8.5 lakhs. Application security engineers with an average salary of 9 lakhs to 14 lakhs. And definitely today cloud is booming, so cloud security engineers are important. An average salary of a cloud engineer is from 10 lakhs to 16 lakhs. And this is with minimum experience, or if you have a great domain knowledge, even as a fresher, you can get into it and do a lot about it. So one of my colleagues is going to cover a detailed session about what are the various opportunity how you can go for it. But I'm trying to summarize it here so that you can understand how you can get into the field. How you can get into the field? Through training and courses. You can opt for undergraduate, graduate, or master degrees from various universities like VIT, you have it. You can go for a PhD or research focused specialization. You can do online courses. There are so many websites, even Harvard and Oxford, they provide free courses. If you want a certificate, you can pay a nominal fees and get a certificate from them as well. There are a lot of companies or the non-profit forums like Isaka who gave certification in various domains which are very well recognized globally. Certification like system security certified practitioners, certified cyber professional, certified information system auditor like a CISA. Various certification you can do it. And why I'm saying this, you can do it and you have to do it to gain more knowledge, because 8 out of 10 more likely to get hired as a cybersecurity candidate with performance-based certification. These are the certifications which helps you to grow your performance, not just the knowledge, but as well as the performance. Probably the slide may not be clearly visible, but I wanted to put a security certification progression chart. So there are various streams, and I'll share this with your professor as well. He can share with every participant. You can get into security management, you can be a security architecture, analysis, you can go for a defensive operation security or offensive operations. You can become a pure cybersecurity engineer. So there are so many ways out to it, and you can get into these domains. So what is important for us? The career boosters, yes, you have to go for certification or accredited trainings. Definitely you have to go for a lot of events, conferences, seminars to ensure you are continually evaluating your education and gaining professional education through these forums. Ask for mentoring from these domains if you want to learn more about it, grow into it. Write articles and blog so that it get reviewed by professionals. They can comment on it and you can improve on it. Maintain your LinkedIn and Twitter profile. It's important in today's world that the social media also is maintained very well. LinkedIn is a professional social media network. Even Twitter, you can make it social media rather the professional social media rather than personal social media, so that the recruiters or the companies can review your profile and then they can hire you easily. And yes, definitely develop a good relationship with recruiters. They're the people who can help you to get into the industry. So that's all I have for today's session. Any questions? Any comments are welcome.
Thank you, Haman, for your wonderful intro session. I think you have given the overview of the cybersecurity. In fact, even you have clarified the difference between cybersecurity, information security, network security. All these people are getting confused. It's very wonderful. I think you have given a starting point for the day. And there is a question from Dr. Subhash. He's asking, based on risk assessment, which kind of risk, should be avoidable?
So it depends on the organization context. For example, I'll give you a layman term that today I see a landslide happening, maybe like 20 foot ahead of me, and I can visibly see that. So I can avoid that kind of risk instead of getting through it, right? So a risk, it's based on the context. You have to identify, understand whether you can avoid. See, the first step is always to avoid the risk so that you don't get into the environment, and even a smallest kind of impact happens on your organization. So you try to avoid any kind of a risk, but if you can't avoid it, then definitely you try to mitigate it. If you can't mitigate it 100%, the residual risk you have to accept it, and that's how the risk or the control mechanism works against the risk.
Okay, I have a question, Hemant. If students want to, get into cyber security, is it a good idea to get into the technical side or, administrative side? Or before getting into the administrative side, like auditing and so on, do we need to really have a fairly good technical knowledge?
So I probably that's what I was trying to show throughout the presentation is that you have to understand the domain first, then you explore your area of expertise by learning technical things, technical parameter. If you want to get into the strategic and auditing mechanism, yes, you have to know the technical terms, but you don't have to get into in-depth knowledge of technicality that how the hack can happen. But you should be able to present to the board of director or to conduct the audit on that environment, how it can be happen, how it can be mitigated. So I can suggest if you are from the technical background like engineering or masters, you can definitely start with some technical domain knowledge, getting into cybersecurity by doing basic cybersecurity courses like certified ethical hacker or a certified system security person, and then explore your domain whether you want to continue in the technical field or you want to go and to the next level whether auditing or the strategic decision can happen.
Thank you, Hemant, for your nice session. And okay, there was one more question, maybe the last question.
One more question I have from YouTube. One of the participants, Vinay Prasad, has asked this question: who are all eligible for this career?
Anyone. I mean, information security is something that if you are curious to learn about it, you can get into the domain. I would prefer people who are very curious to know things, who are very curious to do things, tweak things, or in Indian term we can say doing jugards, can get into this field definitely, because this field is something that you have to be curious. You can't be a theoretical person, just read about it and learn about it. You have to be curious.
One more
Hemant,
question.
One more question. One participant is asking which programming language one needs to be conversant if you want to work on information and cyber security.
It is not defined that any specific programming language to be used, because if you heard about 2005 Iran nuclear plant attack, it happened on the PLC system. There's no any Java, .NET or C# or any kind of language used, or a Python. Today we are using it. So the attack vectors are different. Whatever domain knowledge you have it, whatever the language knowledge you have it, you can enhance it and grow into the cybersecurity field.
Thank you, Hemant. As we are running short